Good afternoon, Keith Tebow back with you. The state of Massachusetts continues its reopening from the COVID pandemic, and it's been a little while since we've gotten the business view of things. We've had these two gentlemen on quite often over the past year or so. I'm pleased to be joined by the co-CEOs of the One SouthCoast Chamber, Michael O'Sullivan and Rick Kidder. Gentlemen, how are you today?
Doing well, Keith. Good to see you.
Hello, Keith. It's nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to have you back. Let's get right to it. First of all, I want to talk about just the general reopening. Actually, beginning next week, the Commonwealth will be opening a little bit more. Governor Baker last week announced that at the end of May, even more opening. And then, fingers crossed, as we move on, August 1st could actually be a watershed day where the state is going to be pretty much fully reopened. Let me ask you, and Mike, let me start with you first. What are you hearing from the members of the chamber in terms of their enthusiasm about getting back to that state of normalcy?
There's a lot of enthusiasm. Still a little, just little cautiousness, but there's a lot of enthusiasm that we're finally looking at something that's more than just another small increase in the percentage of how many people can get together. So we got a lot of small businesses are very excited.
Rick, how about from your side of things?
From our side of things, absolutely very much the same. I think there's a sense of enthusiasm. I think there's a sense of exhaustion, too. When you talk to small business people, they have weathered an incredible storm, and they're tired. I think most of us in business are looking for people to get vaccinated, to increase our vaccination rates here, so that they can continue to open up comfortably. But I think all of this news that we've been hearing about opening up the economy is something that's very, very good news for all of our small businesses.
I actually want to get to another aspect of this. The chamber just released an op-ed from the both of you, co-signed by the both of you, calling for help, if there are any, in terms of some of our local employers getting back when it comes to hiring employees. I know we've had this conversation before, that there are a number of local businesses that are actually ready to grow, are ready to get back to where they were. They had some employees that left due to the pandemic. They're ready to get back, and some of these employees aren't coming back. A lot of it has to do with maybe a combination of a fear of, still fearful a little bit of the virus. But on the other hand, unemployment insurance, which was bolstered again in the latest stimulus plan, is providing some extra income for people. And in some instances, they're getting paid more not to work than to work. So, Rick, let me ask you, are you hearing those types of concerns? And from the chamber's standpoint, what can be done about it?
Well, for just so that you're aware, both of our phones have been kind of ringing off the hook with employers who are looking for people. It's an unusual set of circumstances that you have when there's a massive unemployment as a result of the pandemic, and now businesses are looking to restaff and are running into roadblocks in doing so. As you'd rightly mentioned, Keith, some of that has to do with the additional stipend that the federal government placed into the unemployment insurance pool. That additional stipend has thrown sort of small businesses actually in competition with the government, something that you rarely see. In addition to that, we know that there are other very legitimate issues, and some of the issues involve things like childcare. Our childcare infrastructure is not fully open. It will be more open, and it will be opening fully. But even so, there are still some real barriers to folks being able to get childcare and be able to go to work. So not only do we have a relatively high unemployment rate, but we have jobs that businesses are looking to fill, and they're not able to fill, and that's an odd dynamic for us, and it's one that we hope in time is going to be settled. But we've asked clearly that the federal government rethink its policy. We know that all of our community colleges and our workforce boards have opportunities for people who are currently unemployed to get new certifications, to actually to get paid to learn so that they can go back to work. We need that desperately.
And Mike, we've also spoken in the past that obviously, tourism, hospitality has been really impacted here on the South Coast, and particularly, within your membership of the One SouthCoast Chamber. But again, in the stimulus bill, there's more money available for businesses to take advantage of that. Are you hearing that some of those businesses, especially restaurants, will be taking advantage of that extra support funding?
Yes, a lot of the restaurants will be taking advantage of the support funding, the restaurant revitalization money. They need it. They've been ravaged over the last year and a half, and they really need the help. But they are suffering, just like Rick just mentioned. They're really suffering to find employees. That's the two biggest problems people have right now are finding employees and daycare. And daycare, childcare is related to the challenge of finding employees.
So I guess let me just ask you again to sort of put your crystal ball out there, and do you expect this to improve even before September? Again, September is the deadline where the extra stipend will come to an end unless it's extended by Congress. So let me just ask you: do you feel that this will get better, and that some of these companies, hopefully, if they can get through this period, will be able to get some of these people back?
There's no guarantees here. If companies can't staff up, then they're not going to be able to optimize what their particular business is, whether it's a restaurant or whether it's a bar or whether it's a manufacturing company. And we are hearing from businesses in every sector that they're having challenges getting things geared back up. It could be a long summer in the hospitality industry if we can't get staffed. And hospitality, as you know, is generally imported money. It's other people's money coming in. So our hotels, our restaurants, they need to be able to have that staffing. We're hoping, frankly, that the unemployment stipend is not extended in September. We know that there will be conversations in D.C. about it. We had an opportunity to ask that question of Senator Markey. Senator Markey gave a good politician's response where he said it is scheduled to end, but they reserve the right to review that decision. So we don't know exactly how this is going to play out, but until it is played out, we're kind of waiting and watching a little bit. We do an annual job fair, and we're going to do a job fair this time in September, even though we know companies need help now. We're waiting until September until that stipend theoretically has ended, so that we can actually make that a very, very valuable experience for our employers.
I guess let me ask Mike, in terms of what you're doing at the chamber. Both you and Rick said your phones are ringing off the hook from some of these employees saying, "Help me, help me." How can a chamber help them?
You try to offer ideas. Many small businesses right now are actually trying incentives for the first time ever. Where they talk to their existing employees and they say, "Hey, can you get a friend to come to work for us? Can you get a family member to come to work for us?" And they get a bonus if they stay for 90 days, 6 months. Different employers have tried different incentives. Keith, it's interesting because this problem it's not just a local issue. It really is a national issue. And this morning I sent to Rick and some others on our executive committee, I sent them an email, the link to an email that a friend from upstate New York had sent me. And in upstate New York, an organization recently had a job fair. They had 110 employers and 40 people showed up. Another employer, the Great Escape in Lake George, they have 1,500 seasonal jobs. 9 people showed up. I mean, it's an emergency. It's a little tough. How do you operate a place that needs 1,500 seasonal employees if 9 people show up?
It gets down to, Keith, what we've been preached at and have been preaching for some time is that human capital is really your most important asset. Without that human capital, without that employee base, it's impossible for a business to to be able to maximize its potential. It's impossible for them in some ways sometimes to be able to pay their bills, to pay their rent. They need that. And these small businesses are suffering at this point. And to some degree, this kind of falls into the road to hell was paved with good intention. But yet it also was seeking to meet a need that was very much there during the pandemic.
So it's funny how, a year ago we were talking about how, helping people who, had become unemployed, helping businesses that have become unemployed. And now that we're sort of rebounding back, there's just different issues that businesses are facing. And, they've been facing it, in one way, shape, or form since day one. Rick, let me just ask you, maybe beginning with next week, talk about some of the events that are coming up for chamber businesses that they can get involved with. I know we like to help you promote some of that information to some of your members.
Well, Keith, I don't have the schedule in front of me at the moment, but we've got a lot of events coming up. We're event rich at the moment. We do have one coming up this week with Secretary Sutters. Next week, we're going to be having a combination of business seminars, one of which is going to be very interesting to a lot of our family-owned businesses. It's on succession planning, and that's part of our Bank 5 series that will be next week as well. Mike, are there others that you can recall?
On Thursday at 10 o'clock, we have coffee with the CEOs. Coffee with you and I over Zoom.
Yeah, and I know, I think in a couple of weeks, you've got Congressman Auchincloss, I believe, also joining you for another event. Again, getting the ear of those in Washington, I guess, is really important. Rick and Mike, I appreciate your time as always. We will get further updates from you. In the meantime, thank you for joining me, and we'll talk again soon.
Keith, thank you so much.
Thank you, Keith, very much.
All right, and thank you for joining us here today on FRC Media. I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great day.